The Corn School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
David Townsend here from Becker Underwood, and I'm going to talk today about expiry dates in crops. And now that's a funny thing. You think of milk, you've got an expiry date, you've got an expiry date for bread and everything else, but crops have one too. As they mature, they get to a point where they've gone as far as they can go, and then from then on, they start to expire or rot or break down, because if not, we'd have a lot of trash around here, to be honest. Corn has one, soybeans have one. So what happens to a crop once we go past the expiry date of that crop? Well, if you think of wheat, if it sits there for a long time and it's already matured and it starts to get wet, you can start to get things like sprouting. You can start to get things like disease come in, stalk breakage, all of that. It being a grass crop, very similar to what can happen in corn. Well, what happens in soybeans? Well, we know that as that crop is finally matured, the root starts to rot away. The stalk itself gets more disease on it, and it's those diseases that break that stalk down so that we don't have all this trash the year after. The other thing that can happen with soybeans is you start to get disease coming into the pods, or you start to get pods shatter, or them popping open, or you get pods dropping on the ground. And all of this loses yield. So we don't want to go by the expiry date on these crops. But what happens with corn, and what's happening right now, is if we look at this corn crop here, we could have a few soybeans left out, and we're trying to decide, do I do my soybeans? Do I take off my corn? Do I switch the header? Now that is an easy procedure right now to switch that header, and I've always suggested you don't lose any days of harvest if you can. If the soybeans aren't ready to go, get the corn off. We don't have time, because we do get this snowfall event that occurs just about every year that sort of slows down harvest. But we're going to look at cornfields because it just rained yesterday. The ground's too wet. I'm not ready to harvest anything. We want to find out if this corn crop is gone past its expiry date. And what you do is you get out into your cornfield and you do a push test. So you count off 10 plants, you push that one. You can see that one there. The stalk is done. 2, 3, 4, 5. And really what we've done is we've pushed the stalk about 45-degree angle at the level of the ear. That's where the most stress is. And if it breaks off at the crown, it's starting to rot down. Now, at 90%, you've only lost 1 in every 10, so you've lost 10 stalks in every 100. You might want to leave this field. If you're starting to get up where you've got 2 to 4 plants going over, you want to target this field to harvest it early so you do not lose yield. They're very hard to pick up, it's very time consuming, and it costs you money as far as fuel goes, it costs you money as far as time goes, and you can also lose yield if you do not get those ears picked up off the ground. So there is an expiry date on corn, and what really is happening is this corn crop went to full maturity this year. And with the stress that we saw and the stress of every season, whether it's drought or whatever, some crops are going to have more of an issue than others, where they didn't feel good all year because they didn't have enough water. We've had lots of sunlight, the crop come to maturity, we had lots of heat, but if it was under stress because of a reduced root zone, because of compaction, or sandy soils and drought effect, or gravel soils, or really heavy clay, what happens is this corn starts to sacrifice roots and sacrifice the crown. No different than our other crops. The diseases start to come in because their goal is to rot this material all down. Okay, let's take a look at one of these plants that fell down. This is the one that I pushed over, and you can see what's happened here is this plant has started to rot down. And what you want to do is, if you've got a knife, slice it open. This one's rotted away, but it's broke right at the crown. You can tell there's the brace roots there. It's all started to rot out. This one's been under too much stress. It now has gone past its expiry date. It's got the lignins all broke down. You've got disease coming in there. It looks like anthracnose, some fusarium has come into this plant that's now starting to rot it down. This is natural. That's what corn does. It lives, it produces seed, it dies, and then all the organisms that's in the soil and around the soil breaks this down to make organic matter for next year's crop. So, take-home message is, If you don't sit around and wait to harvest, get out there. If you've got soybeans left and the weather is sort of iffy to get soybeans off, check your cornfields. Pick those fields that have a higher level of stalk breakage or potential stalk breakage if we get into a snow event or a wind event or worst case scenario, an ice event. Get those fields off now. Come back to the soybeans when we can.